I look forward 20 years. I didn't see my life changing any in a meaningful way, and it really bothered me. It's like, oh my God, I'm 30 years old. I haven't done anything in my life.
Existential crisis at
Yeah,
30.
and then it just kind of like we got to the point where I was so bothered that I couldn't
Yeah.
sleep, and I just had to do it.
Hello and namaste. This is Preeti Pandya Adhikari, the founder of the Great Nepali Diaspora, a community of global Nepali talent. This is season 4 of TGND Beats, Diaspora Ka Kurakani, our podcast where we share human stories of struggle, perseverance, and success. And today we have a really special guest, Anup Tamrakar, who is the CEO, President of Urban Infraconstruction LLC in Texas. Let's welcome him. Thank you, Anupji.
No, thank you for welcoming me. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
No, awesome. I got a lot of requests from people wanting you on our podcast. So I think the conversation is going to be really exciting. And I think our audience is going to love, learning about the experience and everything. So let's get started.
Awesome.
First, Nazi, I did this really short bio about you that in your own words, who is Anup Tamrakar?
Oh, that's a very loaded question. I feel like, human in general, right, are creatures of habit, right? And our habits are shaped by our beliefs and our values. And throughout my childhood and as I grew into the adulthood, I've had a lot of values, the freedom, hard work, family, perseverance. So those have really kind of shaped me to be like who I am, I would say, but also beliefs like, work hard, it's a long game.
Right.
I would say I'm a person shaped by those beliefs and those values and just intentionally living those values out day in and day out.
Awesome. Maybe share a little bit of details, Anupji, in terms of, your youth and childhood, especially Nepal context, man, say how, you got the values that you talked about, freedom, family, and how they have reshaped you as a person.
So I was born in Kathmandu Valley, Patan, Patan Newar family in a very loving family. I have 2 siblings, elder sister and a younger brother. So we were brought in, like any typical Newari god, Kathmandu, Patan.
Strict parents,
my father was very strict. Mom was very humble, very loving, both very hardworking. Come from a very modest middle class family, and my father was a civil engineer, worked for the city. Mom is a teacher. We both had multiple jobs throughout our childhood, but we grew up in a very secure environment. Looking back, with a lot of very fun memories with cousins growing up, festivals, playing sports, fighting with cousins, brother, so grew up in a very loving and very very safe environment, but also very high emphasis on education, hard work, no cheating, no lying. And really doing the right things and living, be good, do good type of mindset, and that has basically stayed throughout as I made my way across the pond, so to say.
So Patan ko family, how did you end up in Texas?
Okay, so I thought I had it figured out in my life, like when I was going to my high school. My father had a small consulting business on the side, and I used to work for him from very early on. And he always gave me a dream of, okay, you see that chair, that's yours, right? So I kind of embodied that. And I thought I was going to go to a Pulsa campus, do my civil engineering, and take that company and make it the next big thing. But then somewhere along the line, somebody put a bug in my ear during high school that we have to go, across, abroad and explore the life. And I basically took it by heart and, make that jump and just pursued it, to the end.
Listen, but one thing I find very interesting about what's the background is, you have a engineering background and then you did your MBA, right? And then I think that's the best combination ever, right? What made you do an MBA after something so technical, right? And
Yes.
how has that helped you?
No, I'll be honest. So I was, so I came here, right? I was 18 when I came here, 2003, Irving Mine Northley College. And it's very famous. It was the cheapest college I could
Lots,
find, and they had a
lots
construction
of Nepalis.
Yes, and they had actually I did a lot of research back then, and it had a construction program that transferred over to Commerce, where I ended up going for my undergrad. So when I came there, it was very much so to be legal, to be honest. Right? The thought wasn't, oh, I'll get a degree, engineering degree or construction degree, and then go do a business. That wasn't the plan. The first was, okay, I need to pay people, and my conscience didn't allow me to take the shortcuts. The other, again, go back to my values, right? Back then you could go to army, or you could, get other ways that you could be legal easily, but my conscience didn't allow me to go those routes. So I went to Northlake, finished. I didn't finish my associates, but I transferred. I did the classes to transfer over to Commerce, finished my construction engineering degree, and then I went to work. So when I went to work, I was the first batch. I remember when before H1B, it wasn't a lottery, right? Like you would apply, even if it's like May, June, July, you could still get your H1. But it was my, as far as I recall, it was my batch. It started the lottery. So So I, and we didn't have that STEM back then. So I only had like 1 year. So after 1 year, I had to go back to school, and I did not want to get another engineering degree, and I decided to go pursue an MBA.
Right.
So that's.
But it turned out well, and I think one interesting line is as immigrants, we have to take these detours and so on. पछि works out, but it's like so different in terms of survival and all of that are so like such big priorities, right?
Yes, totally. And like at the end, it all works out. They all have a purpose, and they all get you ready in a different ways. You may not understand it at the beginning, but at the end, it will all come together.
Exactly. And with that, I do want to talk a little bit in terms of you worked for a little while in other companies. Then you started, I think this is your second company, right?
Yes, I had a couple of other businesses, so to say, but not so much impactful as I, you say, like, feed your soul.
Right.
So, really, from early on, I was very clear what I wanted to do with my life. And I did that while I was back home. I came here, I was clear what I was going to do. And then I pursued that. So there wasn't any going left or right about, what I wanted to do. And the previous other ventures, I would say, was also preparing me to learn how it works, understand the preparations and all the legalities and
exactly. The writing process takes a while. That I want to talk about a little bit in terms of especially construction and engineering in general. A lot more people are in corporations when they do a 9 to 5. They prefer that they rise up the ranks. And the entrepreneurship within that is very different, especially Nepali diaspora. Right? So like what made you want to start your own company? Was it that Nepal देखिको पढ्न मन लागेको भएर कि what opportunity did you see?
I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I've always wanted to get freedom. I always wanted to have freedom, like living my own terms. But more than that, I'll be honest. When I turned 30, it really impacted me in a different way.
Right.
I just my daughter was just born. I just bought a house, put everything that I had to put the 5% down. and at that time I already was working for about 9 years. I had a very stable career, good job, but I look forward 20 years. I didn't see my life changing in a meaningful way. And it really bothered me. It's like, oh my God, I'm 30 years old. I haven't done anything in my life.
Existential crisis at 30.
Yeah, and then tie that into, because I'm very close to my roots. right? And then I could not, come in terms with myself that, okay, I'm, thousands of miles away from my family, my friends, and everything that I believed in, and this is what I'm doing. Now I have responsibility, and what am I doing to make sure that I'm giving her the best? And I have my wife, right? I promised her the moon for her to, come back here and live together. And then it just kind of like we got to the point where I was so bothered that I couldn't sleep, and I just had to do it. So
course, no. But I mean, it sounds, oily hindsight, but of course, it's a great story, and we all hear the stories, right? That I'm sure beginning Mac wasn't that easy, right? In terms of challenges, especially again, immigrant is versus, to start a business and all of that. So, what kind of hurdles were there in terms of starting your own thing?
I think sometimes we put ourselves in the box, like on entrepreneurship, but I think especially like as we talk as immigrants, right?
Right.
Like there's no golden formula for, you do A, B, and C, you get a visa to come to US. It's a kind of an entrepreneurship, right? You're risking a lot of things, and there's a trust, there's a desire, there's a want, and there's that effort and the belief in yourself that, you know what, I will, dare to dream, and I'll chase that dream. I'll do no matter what it takes to do it. So in a lot of terms, it's the same. It's continuing on that belief, continuing on those values, and just continuing to work on that. So I think the entrepreneurship is in the same way. I mean, hurdles are going to be there. It's going to be there, but again, it's allowing yourself to continue to dream, right, and pursuing that dream and actually acting on that dream. And when things come along, you just put your head down and go to work.
That makes complete sense. That I do want to talk a little bit in terms of there are still अलिकति common myths, right?
Sure.
Again, हाम्रो diaspora को हिसाबले चाहिँ, we're in a way we're all entrepreneurs because we have taken that risk. We risk everything to come to new places and settle down in all of it. That a part of our culture is also very risk averse.
Of course. Yes.
You want stability and all of that, right? You the interesting sort of irony, contradiction is there, right?
Yes.
Earlier, when you look at everything you've done, right? You, of course, being an entrepreneur, but the freedom you get, the upside, do you see, especially younger people, some kind of a myth in terms of what being an entrepreneur means, or the hustle that's needed? Is there actually a correct way to look at it?
You can, the way I look at it, let me present it that way if it's okay. It's difficult, right? It's difficult no matter what.
Right.
It's difficult not to do anything. It's difficult to sit and not move. It's difficult not to look at your phone. So we just have to choose what's difficult you want to live. So going back to entrepreneurship, and comparing against corporate and the security that we look, I don't think it's just in our community, to be honest. I think that's across the board. Like even if you see the natives here, they're as equally risk averse as we are.
Right.
And maybe they have more resources. I'm generalizing, of course. And they end up at maybe better starting points than let's say us in general.
Right.
But that does not mean they're less risk averse. It's just human nature, I think.
Right.
And some in general, either immigrants or non-immigrants, are more open to taking risks.
Right.
And tying it back to entrepreneurship, it's not just about taking risks, right? I think it's about, do you have the desire to do anything different than what you're doing? And I don't think being in the corporate world is anything wrong. I have friends from our Nepali community, outside of the Nepali community, in the corporate world. They're doing fantastic. They're in a VP level, senior VP level, doing very meaningful work, living very quality life. and creating impacts in the community.
Right.
And also I have friends who are entrepreneurs stressing out, every day.
Right, exactly.
And also vice versa, right? So I think we have to be really careful when we try to box either or. It comes down to, I think, really understanding what do we really want.
Right. No, I hear you. Honestly, I actually remember this is 10, 15 years ago. I remember actually visiting North Lake College. अनि so long ago that I remember यति धेरै नेपाली देखेको थियो अनि I remember being shocked at seeing one Caucasian right त्यस्तो धेरै
exactly.
अनि तर I mean in general we see that Nepali or especially US को context मा त यति धेरै भइसक्यो all of that right when you compare yourself with people that maybe were your peers that you sort of saw in Nepali or non-Nepalis, right?
Yes,
you've made a place for yourself,
yes,
right?
Yes,
this means what were some critical your habits, your traits that sort of differentiated you from everybody else?
Few things self-reflection. Looking back, I think I was very clear from early on what I wanted to do with my life. So I didn't, there were, especially early on, going back to 2003, right? That's when I came January 2003. The community wasn't as big, and the Dallasma Nepali population decent too. But we were not as connected either because technology wasn't as developed. Facebook and those things were very primitive at that time, and within the Nepali community there was no connectivity as we see it here, and also they weren't as in places as they are now. Right. So the limitation there was very very limited to what access that we had back then. So I think that played a little bit of part also as we progressed through a different. One other thing that I saw back then was a lot of jumping around, not knowing what they wanted to do in their career. A lot of people that come here are smart, academically smart, but every year we're changing, major, and we're not graduating. I forced myself to graduate in 4 years, all hell break loose. So I think there were some. I am still very intentional about, what is the outcome that I want, and decide. And once I decide, I commit. And a lot of times it's not always right, but I reflect and I course correct, and I continue on that path. And the other thing I think it's different is. And it's a two-edged sword, I think. I'm always hungry. I'm not satisfied. Mm-hmm. So I'm always looking to, do more, be more. I'm always tinker to see if I can, do it better. And I try to keep things simple. My priorities are very, very simple, very straight, very clear. And I just follow that. And I'm a person of, creature of habit. I wake up early. I go to bed early. I really don't.
So no parties for you.
No, I do. I like to drink. I like to hang out with my friends. But they also know I go to bed early. I'm notoriously known about having people over at the house and falling asleep. But thankfully they have given me the grace of doing things my way. So I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah. The other thing I do have to mention is more. I think the last time Dallas Cup was last year.
Was it?
Dasaiko Belama, I think, and it was incredible because Dasai was, I think, weekday man. I spent it in New Jersey with family, and then we flew to Texas, right?
Was it?
Yeah, because everybody was working. It was just this, kurta launa pani so garu babo. So it was this. Checklist thing, nobody enjoyed it, right? And then we go to Texas, and it's I'm back in Nepal.
Yes.
When no other city always, I have to admit, gives you that flavor where it does really, really
Yes.
feel like Nepal, but in a way better. Whatever
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's,
And I think the Nepali community here in Dallas has done such an amazing job of preserving, the good aspects and really magnifying that. Even to our kids, they're like in the Nepali community, there is, there's camps and there's
exactly.
Kids go volunteer on Sundays. And, there's again temple and there's a lot of things to kind of promote that feeling, and obviously a lot of food, a lot of restaurants, grocery stores.
No, you get everything. You get everything in Texas. Let's change the topic a little bit, right? You have a few hundred people working with you in that company, right? What is one or two things that you really, really look for, especially as you're scaling in terms of hiring talent?
So when we at first started, resources were really limited, right? It's like, okay, how much can you do? And we bootstrap, started at the kitchen table, with wife doing all the paperwork, learning QuickBooks. But then as you go, we have more resources, and then you can bring people, and then you start. At first, you don't ask those questions. At first, it's like, can you survive it? Can you make it? And then you go to, okay, can I bring people? Can I attract people? And then you bring whoever you can bring. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get a dud. But then over a period of time, what I've experienced is then you said, okay, I need a certain type of people. To fit in the way I want to grow or I want to create this thing. So what we have settled on is we're playing a long game. We will develop people. It's a project, but what are the basic ingredients that we need in these people, right? And that's how I when I went to the workforce. Right. 2006 I graduated. I went to work for 2007. Unheard of. Nobody worked for a construction company like them. Everybody thought I was nuts in our community to go work on the roads. But I always had that mindset of be the first one, be the last one. I'd be the sponge. Just pop up. Be there to help. Be there to learn. So those are the qualities really I look for when I'm looking for somebody to kind of join my team. That desire, do they have the hunger? Do they have the desire to show up? Especially post-COVID, right? There's so much remote, hybrid, and I know it's a very controversial topic about what is the right approach. And I've really put my foot down to be honest. Like, no, this remote and hybrid doesn't work for me, because it's not just about doing the task, right? It's about building a culture. It's about building
having that connection, right?
Exactly. It's about building relationships. It's not just keeping the job, right? It's thriving in the job. And I write a newsletter, a monthly newsletter to all my employees a month. And last month I wrote about the urgent need to work hard. It's in our DNA. If you just do enough, you're barely keeping your job.
Exactly.
You need to do more than what is required. So can I see that? Can I sense that?
Can people deliver on that?
Exactly, because everything is teachable. When I graduated, I didn't know anything. I'm never the construction dozer. You see a yellow piece of iron, dozer. Just like SUV is a Jeep. Like everything is a Jeep, everything is a dozer. So even going to construction school, I knew maybe 2 or 3. I didn't know anything, right? And it took me a year to even say, I don't know. So it's a lot of those, like basic fundamental qualities I look at to see if somebody has that. Everything else is teachable.
Of course. But to just to ask you a little bit more, right? There's especially now there's a lot of interest in this field. People do want to enter this, and I'm sure you see a lot of people reaching out to you, advice, whether it's for your own company or generally for that industry. what is your advice? And or your follow-ups, and also what do you see people doing right or wrong in terms of, especially to Bachar graduate for a
Like,
student, early career, what are some things that you're sort of seeing people do?
you
And you can be honest
it's
about it.
simple is do it. There's
And
no better industry to be in. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm
yes,
biased. I
right.
live it every day, but especially in this country, especially in Texas, uh, in general, US in general, the emphasis on improving people's life,
And
right, is such great, and
right.
the level of uh, funding, both at private level or government level, is
Exactly.
amazing, right? And it's not just in construction; it's like any field, really, right?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter if it's construction.
Right.
IT is the same. We can name gazillion different
Right.
different fields. But I think the approach is any field. I think is the same. Being really committed, I think is different. It's really
Yeah.
I think the problem is that the fear the FOMO, the fear of FOMO. I see a lot of that you don't need to pick the what is the best. I don't believe in this is the best sector.
Right.
This is where I can make more money. Or
Right.
this is where I can make $500,000 a year. I don't think for me personally that is a wrong way to
Right.
somehow some way. I just happen to be born in a family where my father was civil engineer, and early on I was exposed to that. I just took and ran with it. I didn't back then think, there's a lot of opportunities to build roads and bridges, halfway across the world. That wasn't the game plan. And I think for a lot of us, nobody can really plan that way. It's you fall into something, and you just have to commit and have the desire to be the best that you can be in whatever you do. And as far as for young professionals or students that are graduating or looking to get into the workforce, I think there's in my experience, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say stigma, but like defeat mentally about it's very difficult to get a job. The market is very tight. There's a lot of layoffs. I got like in 2007. It was the start of the crisis of 2008. I mean, there was a freeze. I don't know. That last year I was graduating. I was interviewing maybe 2 a week in average for about good 6 months. And it didn't matter what. Like, I did my research, and I had my answers down. I did. I knew HR people. I knew the hiring managers, not like in person, but like their names, their.
Right.
So
you did your research.
The homework. We have to do the homework.
It's so important. Right.
And then also, I think we really have to be careful who we get the advice from. A lot of times we get advice for right or wrong reason from irrelevant people, who haven't really experienced the level you want to go, and you take them literally, and you don't even try.
Right.
You're not even giving yourself a chance.
Right.
So I think those are some of the biggest fundamental things. That we gotta bet on ourselves. We have to be willing to work. We have to be willing to work hard, and put extra effort. And it's not where you start. I say this all the time. Especially in our community, coming from Nepal, we have this perception of high-rise buildings, right? We get influenced by movies and whatnot, sports, and we have the conceptions of working for Google, working for Amazon, right? Big corporates, and
the brand name.
Yeah, and we don't even look at the mid-level, mid-level, and then our expectations are so much that we really box ourselves. I know. So that's one advice I really like to give is it's not where you start.
Right.
It's where you take it from there. Right.
That's perfect. And I'm like saying, you know, as I build you Great Nepali diaspora and we see the diaspora evolve, whether it's in Dallas or even around the world, I feel, you know, what you said in terms of getting advice from relevant people. In a way, it also means mentors,
Yes.
right? Like whether you call them mentors or not,
Sure.
or whatever. So what do you see this oily, like from when you went to college, oily masters dakari, how can we, you know, infuse that culture, हाम्रो community-मा चाहिँ, to whether we're any industry-मा, to become unofficial, official mentors, and to sort of, you know, have that in terms of where you people are not just trying to figure out things on their own. That there's you know, people that are supporting and cheering and actually opening up opportunities for them.
I think there's a lot of ways. Fortunately, you know, I've seen a lot of my friends, right? We went to North Lake together 20 years ago, believe it or not, more than 20 years ago, are doing phenomenally well in a lot of different fields, variety of different fields, corporate world, or you know, or on their own, and very good people. They're very proud of what they've done, and very humble and very willing. No, but they have their priorities. You know, they are, you know, all of us are in the phase where, you know, we have a big
young kids
is with the families, but we also you know, spend intentionally a lot of time with, you know, younger generations to see like if we can give them some leverage. So like when we first came to North Lake, like we even to like advice on how to apply for an internship.
Exactly.
We didn't even, you know, the highest level back then was maybe a manager in a gas station. Right? That was the level of
our expectations, or like
exactly. And then there were a lot of like guys who do like you coming more than you could put it on like not so you used to get a lot of that. But putting it in context of students now, right? I think like people like yourself, people like us, I think we're always open to be a, you want to call it mentor or a sounding board or advice, but I think the onus has to be on these guys and gals that are coming out of the system and seeing like who is out there I can reach out. Maybe, you know, leverage their experience, right? Not just like, hey, can you give me a job, but like, you know, what does it take, you know, to get a job, right? Or to get an interview. How do we prepare for an interview? Because quite, you know, believe it or not, unfortunately, I'll just be honest, you know, in our community, there's still a lot of skills that has to be developed in those levels to compete with, not, I'm not going to compete on any time. We're competing against Indians, Chinese, you know, Mexicans, Americans, Europeans, that are Eastern Europeans that are coming here. And you know, the level of, you know, their levels. And obviously I'm generalizing, but I see a lot to where, you know, we lack those skills and an initiative.
When you see these skills, is it more on the technical side of things? Is it more in terms of interpersonal or this type of
communication? I think it's more cultural. I think Nepali people, and again, I'm not you know, saying this because, you know, we share the demographics, but from work ethic, right, from production standpoint, ability to do the work and produce the work, and technical ability, I think we're one of the strongest demographics, right? But also it's about perception, right? It doesn't matter how much you know. If I don't know what you know, it doesn't really matter. It's not of no use for me. And how you approach, and how I approach in a social setting. You know, when we go out to, during, like early on, I faced that a lot. You know, in my internship, I did internships. Like I was like during the lunch breaks, you know, we would go out to lunch with colleagues. I would dread to go to lunch, you know, because I don't know what to say.
Of course,
I don't understand. I can't relate. They're talking all this football. I have no idea. I'm I'm worried about my hours in the store.
Right.
I'm worried about my rent, my
Exactly.
car.
Exactly.
I know, I don't have those hobbies. We didn't grow up the same way, so there's very
Right.
few things in common to strike the conversation, to build that rapport, and plus that, we are in general like shy. We're a little bit, we're
Introverts,
introverts,
right.
and then we don't put ourselves out
Out
there.
there. The culturally too.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, and then I think that puts us on very disadvantage,
right.
and it really limits our growth. It really limits our potential and
Exactly.
and opportunities.
Right. No, I hear you. Actually, one of the primary objectives of your TGND Mansa is exactly that, it's the networking, right? Because I mean, after real world, now you have to network.
Of course,
It's not easy, right?
not.
And yeah, I'm just saying, hope case of especially through our in-person enhancements, people come, they try out networking with other Nepalis, already Nepali bullet, so you can talk about momos or whatever, right? Easier, so many you get comfortable, and then you get to go out in your real world and do that. Because your safe space, like by the time you have to network, to awkwardness so I'm hoping that sort of is helping.
And it doesn't go away. Like for me, it never goes away. You still, but you just have to be, in my case, I accept it. I accept my flaws. I do my best. Some days are good. Some days are not so good.
Right, exactly.
But you show up. 80% of the challenge is to show up.
Exactly.
And
I mean, you do it so much that it feels normal, right?
Yes.
No, Theo, this is a really strong point. The other question that I want to, really ask you is, there is now more and more Nepali students or professionals trying to get into this industry, and all smaller level, Nepali, even entrepreneurs that want to sort of be in this space. Where do you see within that construction industry? There's so many disciplines also, right? Within that, but it's so the range is so big. But where do you think you see like potential for Nepalis to be a part of and really thrive?
Like you said, there's the opportunities that in this. We can go on the contractor side. We can go on the design side. We can go on construction management side, and within that, we can go on residential construction. You can go on commercial construction. You can go on civil construction. You can go renewable. You have these big warehouses you can build. There's so many nuances within the industry. Like anywhere you go, I think you can't fail. But also there's again the whole supply chain. There's testing. I know a lot of Nepali people work with testing labs. There's that. There's interior supply. There's whole food chain, aggregate structure. There's electrical work, HVAC work, roofing work, the excavation. There's, you name it. Anywhere there's. I think the more focus is to do it. If you really want to do it.
Exactly.
We're never gonna have all the answers, and the try to optimize and get into the best. I don't think. I think that's a wrong question to ask.
Exactly. Like you said, you kunna salary there, so which one has this the buzzword for your year one? It is probably the wrong way. From what you're saying and from what we see as well, I think the construction industry is thriving in terms of there is a lot of resources and a lot of funding being put in. So people can find what they some match for themselves, right?
Yes. And again, I would say this, don't do it for money. Because this is a very difficult industry. It's a very risky industry. A very lot of type A personalities. Very male-dominated industry. But that doesn't mean there are women, right? There are women, like in my team. We have Nepali ladies in my team. They are doing outstanding. They go toe-to-toe with men. But there's got to be something else other than money that's pulling you to do this, because this is something you're going to do for big chunk of your life,
Sure.
right? So there's got to be something else. That's because it's, we start early, we work in the summer, we work long hours, we work weekends. So again, it doesn't matter, you're building a house or you're building a road, you're building a bridge. It's just the nature of the work. It's dirty, it's loud, it's noisy, but there's a lot of satisfaction. There's a lot of people that have very they share the values, similarly to the food, the family, the community, creating something and
seeing
in front of your eyes.
There's something so tangible, right?
Right, and solving problem. Phone rings, it's always for a problem. No one calls you to say, "Hey, you did a great job." Right, it's always so and so screwed up, or so and so didn't happen.
Right.
So you have to be ready for that. But the level of satisfaction is amazing.
Right, which is amazing, right?
Yes.
So our sort of, I think, advice to students is not just go after the money, find a passion point or something else that drives you. That this is a good industry. If they're already interested in it, I think there's a lot of potential.
There's a lot of things. And there's a lot of things. Before it used to be like, oh, if you do this, you're gonna have a good career. But now there's so much, like technology itself, like construction technology is booming. Especially with AI and all those things, you see, you don't know what the 2 years down the road is going to be like.
Of course.
We've been doing for such a long period of time in the same way, but
there's so much innovation in
innovation and adaptation of technology is the disruption it has created. So it's not just what's currently happening, but it's like what is yet to be done.
Exactly.
No one knows. So there's limitless potential, just like any other field. Like tech is the same, finance is the same, believe it or not. In the banking, I would say.
No, there's definitely a lot of potential in this, and I might say actually, I've advised a few startups that are in this space. It's so innovative. Like you said, use of AI for the safeguarding. They can use of 3D mapping. There's so much that's happening. So I think. A traditional view of this is almost like a legacy industry. But there's just so much exciting things happening. So people should, really look at it. That's our, that's our advice.
Like recently, one of my good friends she's from Austria. They have a like AI construction tool company. They raised the Series A $20 million.
Exactly.
It's happening every day.
It is, right? And there's actually a lot of even Nepali entrepreneurs building some incredible startups, even US space mass. So it was super exciting. Oiniko lagi, say maybe a last lamo question from my end. Say, what is your hope? That's what you've seen from 2003 to today, right? And it's constantly evolving. What is your hope for our community, and then also how we can leverage it for like ourselves as well as Nepal?
Sure. You mean like what is the hope for our community? Is that?
Yes. What do you think? Oily that good and bad, right? I mean, size na bada, so good and bad things.
Sure.
What is what would you hope that this sort of community becomes?
Definitely it has grown quite a bit, and we have people from a lot of spectrum, especially here in Dallas. And also I see it's stronger as a community. The good people were the managers of the stores. Now they are VPs of very prominent industries or in very meaningful roles. So we have over this 20 years we have elevated our presence, I feel like, in the community. But at the same time, there is long ways to go. And then one message is like we're not really competing against each other. We are really competing against other people out there. So being able to support each other, help each other when needed, as we have been doing, I feel like in the community. Not just from academics or career or finance, but also like socially,
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of responsibility to pass, our, roots, what it means to, be from Nepal. Nepal
Right.
we still, in my YPO, in one of our conversations, in introductions, one of my friends, we were doing introduction, and I mentioned, oh, I'm so and so, and I'm from Nepal, and he picked on that. It's like, oh, you lived in this country for more than 20 years, but you still associated being a Nepali.
Right.
And then I kind of came back and it's like, why is that?
Yeah.
Because deep inside you're still, you still have that.
Monse Nepali, right?
I'm still that kid that came, 20 years ago with 2 suitcases and 2 grand in my pocket, and in the heart is always wanted to jump and go back and then be in the streets, gullies, Patan ko, doing those things. So I think it is our responsibility to teach, right, the kids, our kids, that are born here, that are growing up here, to connect them to our roots so that they don't feel lost down the road. Because it's, especially we all know here, it's not difficult to get lost.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to get distracted. It's not difficult to be alone, feel lonely.
Right. And I think there's multiple identities coming into place, especially of second generation American. Like there's so many things as well. So apart from bigger place, a different place, I think there's just so many things that are happening. Right.
One of the things that we do is we have a soccer club, unofficial soccer club that we've been playing soccer. It really started our friends from North Lake, going back. At first, it was survival and finding a job, and we all dispersed throughout the country. And then once we got to a level where we were, we could decide where I want to live, then we all came back. Like 2010, 2011, 6 or 7 of us started to play soccer together over the weekend so that we can connect. So that has grown to be now in our group, we have more than 50 people.
Wow.
There are guys like me who have kind of seen for 20 years our kind of gradual I guess the growth of the community, but there are like some new ones that have just kind of transferred over 2 years and trying to find that community through shared passion for playing and watching soccer. We connect, and so we do a lot of those like these discussions about how to pursue your next phase of your life, or continue through that, and we find a lot of joy being part of those.
Theo, is so important. The bonding is, it doesn't have to be even personal and professional growth. It doesn't have to be like in an office, the city to serious talk. It can be a lot of these social activities and bonding and so on. I think it makes a difference, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, perfect. Actually, that brings us to the end of your larger sort of question round. We have a rapid fire section, which is going to be a little more simpler. We have about 5 or 6 questions, very simple. I'll just ask something and then you answer without thinking a lot.
I'll try my best.
एउटा चाहिँ favorite Nepali word or phrase you use?
Favorite Nepali? Us.
I use it all the time as well. One tech device that you can't live without?
It has to be my phone.
Do you put the phone next to your bed?
Yes.
Just follow.
Yes.
Hi. One word to describe your leadership style?
Situational.
It's interesting. Situational. Apart from Patan, one place in Nepal you never get tired of seeing?
Forping.
Nice.
It's where my dad was born, and
nice.
It's a beautiful place.
Is my follow-up, how often do you at least get to go in Nepal?
At least once a year, multiple times a year.
Yes, sir. Awesome. A celebrity or a popular person in any industry that you're dying to meet?
Dying to meet.
This is going so.
Oh, that's a very I'm
You don't have to be a
I'm
celebrity.
I'm a big Ronaldo fan.
Nice.
Yeah, he's getting old and cocky, but it's a different
Right.
story. But I'd love to meet him
He just
sometime.
started his YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
And 1 hour, 1 million. He
Really?
broke the record.
Wow. So I really, I'm a not just he's a complete package.
Awesome. Awesome. So last question. One piece of advice you always carry with you. What's the advice?
Be hungry.
Awesome. Honestly, that brings us to the end of our conversation. This was so great. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you.
No, I think our audience are going to love it. I think there's so much interest in what you do and everything. So we're so grateful for Ajuka time.
No, thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine.
Perfect. Ani, for our listeners, thank you. Please listen, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.